final episode has arrived, and this time Spear isn't fighting just to survive. He's fighting for his family. They've been turned into savage beasts, creatures driven by instincts they can no longer control. To save them, Spear will have to face them himself, even if it means risking his own life in the process, because if he fails, he won't just lose them forever. He may also lose the chance to watch his daughter grow up. The episode begins with Spear continuing his search for Mira and Fang. From the sky, riding his prehistoric bird, he scans the forest below, hoping to spot any sign that might lead him to them. After covering a wide area, he decides to land and search the ground more carefully. He moves through the trees, studying the forest floor until he finally finds a set of dinosaur tracks. The moment he sees them, Spear immediately recognizes them as Fangs. Without wasting a second, he begins following the trail, running through the forest while his bird circles above him. The tracks lead him to an area where something clearly went wrong. The ground shows obvious signs of a struggle, and as Spear moves forward, he starts noticing blood scattered everywhere. Everything suggests that Mira and Fang were forced to fight some kind of creature here. As he continues examining the scene, he notices something else. Mixed among the bloodstains are small footprints, far too small to belong to an adult. They belong to a baby. When Spear sees them, a terrifying thought crosses his mind. For a brief moment, he imagines that his daughter may have been attacked during the fight, and that she might not have survived. But as he studies the trail more closely, he realizes the tiny footprints continue farther ahead. That means the baby escaped, and she's still alive. With renewed hope, Spear takes off running again, following the trail as it cuts through the forest. The entire area bears the marks of a brutal battle. Broken trees, torn up earth, and blood trails scattered in several directions. While trying to piece together what happened, Spear suddenly finds the severed arm of a humanoid creature. Moments later, his suspicion is confirmed when he discovers the lifeless body of that same beast lying in the forest. It's clear that Fang managed to defeat it during the fight. Just then, Spear hears soft sobbing coming from nearby. As he approaches, he finds Fang badly wounded, while Mira desperately tries to tend to her injuries. The battle must have been brutal because the dinosaur can barely move. When Mira sees Spear, she runs toward him in shock. She immediately notices that something about him has changed. The wounds he once carried are gone, and his appearance now looks far more human than before. Fang's hatchlings rush forward to greet him as well, and in that moment, Mira finally introduces Spear to his daughter. Spear slowly opens the palm of his hand, and the tiny baby reaches out and touches it with curiosity, creating the first connection between father and daughter. Afterward, Spear walks over to Fang, who is still weak from her injuries. The dinosaur sniffs his hand and recognizes her old companion. She tries to stand, but Spear gently stops her, urging her to rest. Then he lets out a call toward the sky to summon his prehistoric bird, because strapped to its back is a small toy he made for his daughter. For a brief moment, it feels like everything has finally begun to fall back into place, and that Spear has at last reunited with the ones he loves most. But that moment of peace doesn't last long. Suddenly, several tranquilizer darts strike Fang's hatchlings, then Fang herself, and finally Mira as she tries to shield her daughter. One last dart hits Spear as well, and he quickly loses consciousness. Hours later, he wakes up and realizes they've all been taken back to the same coliseum where the brutal fights once took place. Spear is chained to a massive rock, forced to watch as the old man responsible for crowning the champions now holds Spear's daughter in his arms. Spear struggles against the chains, but there's nothing he can do to stop what's happening. At that moment, members of the tribe begin forcing everyone to drink the same liquid Spear used to consume after winning his battles. But the effect on them is very different. Fang's hatchlings don't gain controlled strength the way Spear once did. Instead, they transform into feral creatures that completely lose control. Mira undergoes a similar transformation, turning into a green-skinned beast driven purely by violence. Fang, being much larger, is forced to drink far more of the liquid, and her body mutates into a massive reddish form with overwhelming destructive power. Spear's punishment for trying to escape is cruel and deliberate. He is forced to watch as the people he loves most are turned into monsters, creatures with no memories, no awareness, who begin attacking each other without recognizing who stands before them. The hatchlings are the first to descend into chaos, attacking one another without restraint, clawing and striking until they leave each other seriously wounded. At the same time, Fang and Mira also fall into combat, fighting with a brutal intensity that makes it clear they've completely lost themselves. During the struggle, Mira even manages to injure Fang. Still chained to the rock, Spear watches in horror. Desperate, he begins smashing the chains against the stone with all his strength, again and again, trying to break free. After several attempts, the effort finally pays off, and the chains snap. Now free, Spear realizes his only priority is to stop the ones he loves from killing each other. But stepping in isn't easy. He has to protect them whenever he can, while also keeping himself alive, because any one of those creatures could kill him in an instant if he lets his guard down. Spear moves constantly through the chaos, trying to separate them, dodging attacks and putting himself between them whenever possible, in a desperate effort to keep them alive. Amid the madness, something begins to shift inside Spear's mind. Seeing the people he loves turned into savage beasts triggers the fragmented memories that had been haunting him before. Slowly, the images grow clearer. Piece by piece, everything comes back to him. He finally remembers it all. He understands exactly who the creatures in front of him really are, and what has been done to them. As he processes the truth, he also notices something else. The nearby volcano is becoming more and more active. The battle inside the Coliseum rages on without pause, but everything changes the moment the volcano finally erupts. The sheer force of the eruption causes the surrounding structures to begin collapsing. The arena sits directly in the path of the advancing lava, and the ground starts to crack as sections of the Coliseum crumble. Despite the growing danger, the creatures continue fighting, unable to reason under the influence of the black substance they were forced to drink. Spear tries to intervene whenever he can, preventing them from falling into the rivers of lava now forming around them. And in the process, he suffers several injuries. The situation becomes even more desperate when, during the collapse of the arena, his daughter suddenly falls from above. Spear reacts instantly, lunging forward and catching her just before she can plunge straight into the lava. With the baby safe, the situation only becomes more complicated. Spear keeps trying to keep everyone alive, breaking up fights and preventing anyone from falling into the lava or being attacked by the others. But during one of those clashes, Mira lunges at Spear and accidentally scratches the baby's face. The child's cry triggers something unexpected. Even in her monstrous state, the sound is unbearable to Mira. Spear notices what's happening as the baby's constant crying begins to affect her, until finally Mira regains control and returns to normal. Spear can't explain the situation with words, so he simply shouts and points toward a safer direction, signaling that she needs to leave the Coliseum with the baby immediately. While Mira escapes with the child, Spear runs toward the dinosaurs, trying to pull them away from the areas where the lava continues to spread. But the task is incredibly difficult because they are still under the effect of the substance. Then something unexpected happens. Drops of lava fall onto one of Fang's hatchlings. The contact causes an immediate reaction, and the creature suddenly returns to normal. Spear quickly realizes that the lava seems to neutralize the effects of the black substance they were forced to drink. Understanding this, he decides to use it to try to bring the others back. When one of the tribe's soldiers falls into the pit during the collapse, Spear seizes the opportunity to grab his spear. Using it, he reaches the edge of the lava flow and carefully collects a small amount on the tip of the weapon. Then he approaches the other hatchling and lightly strikes it with the lava, causing it to return to its normal state as well. Now, only Fang remains. Spear tries to repeat the same method, but it quickly becomes clear that it isn't working. After observing the situation, he concludes that it may be because of Fang's size, or because she drank far more of the liquid than anyone else. Again and again, Spear attempts to use the lava to bring Fang back, but none of his efforts succeed. Unlike the hatchlings, the substance's effect on her appears to be much stronger. Even so, Spear refuses to stop. He keeps searching for a way to reach her, while the Coliseum continues collapsing and the lava pushes closer and closer. In one final attempt, Spear gets close enough to strike her again with the lava-tipped spear. He manages to hit Fang, but the effort throws him off balance. Spear slips and begins falling into the abyss, straight toward the lava rushing beneath his feet. At the very last second, Fang reacts. She regains control and lunges forward, catching Spear in her jaws before he can fall. The moment echoes the earliest days of their journey, when the two of them survived side by side in a brutal world. Once again, Spear finds himself riding on Fang's back. As everyone slowly begins to regain consciousness, they rush toward the place where Mira has become trapped between cracks in the ground and the flowing lava. Working together, they manage to pull her out of the danger zone. Before the coliseum is completely swallowed, the four of them escape and move far away from the volcano. Hours later, Spear wakes up in his old village. Everything around him is calm. Mira sleeps nearby, and his daughter rests peacefully beside him. Spear stands and walks through the area until he reaches the spot where Fang sleeps alongside her hatchlings. There, he notices several drawings that have been made on the walls of the cave during his absence. As he studies them, he realizes that in one of the drawings he is shown alone. So, using his finger, Spear begins to draw. He completes the image, adding Mira, his daughter, Fang, and the hatchlings, creating a picture of his entire family together. After finishing the drawing, Spear walks over to Fang and lies down beside her. The hatchlings curl up nearby, and soon Mira arrives with the baby to rest as well. That night, they all sleep together, finally reunited after everything they've been through. Years later, the story returns to the same scene that closed the second season. Mira's daughter has grown up, and Fang's hatchlings have become young dinosaurs. But this time, the moment continues a little further. A few seconds later, Spear appears and watches as his daughter rides an adult Fang. The image suggests that the adventures in the world of Primal are far from over, and that a new generation is ready to carry the story forward. And with that, the third season comes to an end.